People think the most dangerous thing on an empty American highway is falling asleep at the wheel. They're wrong. It's the moment you realize the truck behind you isn't trying to pass you. It's following you, matching your speed, matching your turns. And the driver doesn't have a face. Ethan Cole had driven this stretch of Highway 61 more times than he cared to count. But tonight the road felt different. The sky was a flat sheet of black. No moon, no stars, no glow from distant towns. Just the kind of darkness that absorbed headlights instead of reflecting them. Even the hum of the engine sounded deadened, like the world around him was swallowing noise. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 1:47 a.m. Too late to be awake. Too early for the world to make sense. Ethan wasn't running from anything dramatic. Just a long week, a job that didn't love him back, and a feeling he didn't know how to name. Something between exhaustion and emptiness. He just wanted to get home, crash into bed, and forget that life felt like it was slowly chewing him down to the bone. Miles of nothing stretched ahead. No cars, no rest stops, no signs of life. Then Ethan saw the truck. Not approaching, not passing, just there in his rearview mirror. Its headlights were angled slightly upward, hitting the back of his car too perfectly. Too steady, too bright. First Ethan brushed it off. Trucks drove these roads all night. But something about this one made the hairs rise on his arms. It wasn't speeding. It wasn't slowing. It wasn't drifting. It was following. He tapped his brakes lightly, not to stop, but to test. The truck adjusted instantly. Ethan's jaw tightened. He accelerated. The truck accelerated. He switched lanes. The truck switched lanes immediately. A cold, thin thread of fear slid down his spine. This wasn't normal. This wasn't random. The truck wanted something. Ethan tried to rationalize it. Maybe the driver was tired. Maybe they were also trying to stay awake. Maybe it was a coincidence. But when he looked again into the rearview mirror, he noticed something that emptied his lungs. There was no face in the driver's seat. Not a shadow. Not a silhouette. Not a head turned away. Just a blank void. A smooth, pale surface where a face should have been. No features. No mouse. No eyes. Nothing. Ethan blinked hard. Once. Twice. The third time. The face or lack of one didn't change. His heart thudded once, violently. He wasn't tired. He wasn't hallucinating. The driver truly had no face. Ethan's breathing turned sharp. Panic crept into his fingers, making them shake on the steering wheel. He reached for his phone, but there was no signal. Not even a single bar. Highway 61 was notorious for dead zones. The truck behind him flashed its high beams. Once, twice, 3 times. Not random. Not accidental. A rhythm. Pattern. A message. Ethan didn't know what it meant, but the intent was unmistakable. It wanted his attention. He pressed harder on the gas, pushing his old Honda far past what he normally dared. The engine complained, but it obeyed. The truck followed effortlessly. No swerving, no strain, no engine roar. Just smooth, unnatural movement, as if it wasn't driving but gliding. At 2:09 a.m., Ethan made a decision he instantly regretted. He pulled onto the shoulder. Not to stop, he wasn't suicidal, but to let the truck pass. Maybe this whole thing was a misunderstanding. Maybe the faceless driver was just some reflection trick. He slowed. The truck slowed. He rolled onto the shoulder. The truck rolled onto the shoulder. They were now moving at 20 miles per hour, side by side with the empty black woods stretching into nothingness on both sides. That's when Ethan saw something impossible. The truck didn't leave tire marks. Its wheels were turning, but the asphalt beneath it stayed untouched, like its weight wasn't real. Ethan's throat tightened. He was gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles looked bone-white. Then the truck stopped, just like that, as if someone had unplugged it from reality. Ethan couldn't stop. His car coasted another 30 feet before fully braking. He stared through his rear windshield. The faceless figure was still sitting behind the wheel, motionless, too still, like a mannequin dropped into a place it didn't belong. Ethan's chest rose and fell sharply. He felt the primal urge to flee, but his mind locked in place. trapped in the disbelief. Then the truck's headlights went off. Complete darkness swallowed the highway. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. He slapped his hand against his door lock, making sure it was sealed. His breath fogged the glass as he stared at the silhouette of the truck, barely visible in the faint glow of his own brake lights. He whispered to himself, "Don't get out. Don't you dare get out." The darkness felt alive. Then, top. Not on the window. Not on the door. From the trunk. Something had tapped the trunk of his car. Ethan's blood turned cold. He stared into the rearview mirror again. The truck was still parked, silent, dead. But something was behind his car. Something close enough to touch it. A slow, shaky breath escaped him. Another tap. A dragging sound, like fingers trailing across metal. Ethan's instinct broke through paralysis. He slammed the car into drive and punched the gas. The tires screeched, gravel spraying behind him. He didn't look back. But the moment he reached 30 miles per hour, the truck's headlights lit up again, exploding onto the asphalt like two white suns. And the faceless thing behind the wheel began driving forward. Not fast, not frantic, just steady, patient, following, as if the real hunt had just begun. Ethan didn't realize he was speeding until his tires skidded slightly on a curve. His body was running on pure adrenaline now, not thought. His hands were clenched so tight around the steering wheel that the muscles in his forearms burned. The truck behind him stayed at the same distance, never closing, never dropping back, just shadowing him like a predator keeping its prey in sight. He checked the clock again.
2:17 a.m.
Less than 10 minutes had passed since the taps on his trunk, but it felt like an hour. He wanted to call someone, anyone. But the phone screen still showed no service, like the words were carved into the glass. The road ahead stretched out straight for miles, lined with thick woods that swallowed the night. Not a single house, not a gas station, not even a reflective street sign, just endless black. The truck flashed its high beams again. Once, twice, a pause, then a long, blinding burst. Ethan flinched, veering slightly before steadying himself. His pulse was a hammer inside his skull. Those flashes weren't random. They were deliberate, intentional. Communication. But communication from what? Ethan forced himself to breathe through his nose, slow and controlled, the way his therapist used to tell him years ago. Panic makes you stupid, Ethan. Panic makes you blind. Stay present. Stay conscious. But the advice felt useless now. Those tips were meant for anxiety, heartbreak, stress. Not a faceless thing chasing you down a deserted American highway. He checked the rearview mirror again. The faceless figure hadn't moved. Still sitting in the driver's seat, head forward, body perfectly still. Not human still, dead still. Ethan whispered, "What do you want?" Knowing full well there'd be no answer. Then he saw the sign, or what should have been a sign, that a large metal pole stood on the side of the road, exactly where a mile marker should be, but the rectangular plate attached to it was completely blank. No number, no text, not even scraping marks where paint should have been. Just an empty reflective surface staring back like an eye. Ethan slowed without meaning to. His brain was trying to make sense of the impossible. Every mile marker on Highway 61 was numbered. There was no reason for one to be blank. There was no place on the map where a sign like this existed. Then another blank sign appeared. And another, spacing every mile perfectly even, perfectly empty. Ethan's breath hitched. It wasn't the highway that was wrong. It was space. He wasn't in the same stretch of road anymore. Either he had driven in circles without turning, even though the road was perfectly straight, or he had slipped into something that looked like Highway 61 but wasn't. The truck behind him honked. A long, low, impossible sound. It wasn't the blare of a real horn. It was deeper, more resonant, almost like a foghorn echoing inside a cave. Ethan felt it in his chest, in his ribs, in his teeth. He swallowed hard and kept driving. Minutes bled together. Time lost meaning. The clock insisted it was 2:23 a.m., but Ethan felt like the road had stretched into a loop with no exit. His headlights cut through the darkness, and then suddenly illuminated something that made the breath leave his lungs. A man, standing on the shoulder, wearing a faded denim jacket, head lowered, hands at his